All right, so we got Tyler Dugoni of Caliber TV, co-founder, and then he's also a videographer for Visual Hype Productions. Tyler, how are you doing today?
Good. How are you doing?
We're doing
Good
well, trying to stay
morning.
warm in Wisconsin.
Snowy Sunday.
Yeah, another Sunday. So Tyler, tell me a little bit about how Caliber TV started. I understand that you did some Warp Tour stuff in the beginning, right? And
Mhm.
then it kind of just blew up into a platform for music videos.
Yeah, so Caliber first started. My partner who runs Caliber with me, his name is Alfredo Preciado. He kind of started it about a year before I joined, where he was just filming with his little point and shoot camera and going to shows. And he was actually doing it under a different name to begin with. And then we met at a show. We actually met, I think, at an Issues show in
Oh,
like
cool.
2012, and we just started talking. He was like, "Oh, you do graphic design? Oh, you have a camera? Oh, do you want to do things?" I'm like, yeah, let's do it.
Hell yeah.
So we started doing interviews and we started filming live performances. Before that, I was avidly going to concerts. I mean, almost every night of the week. So it was just a matter of time before I met Alfredo, and we just decided to start filming shows and eventually added more people, and it just continued to grow until what it is today.
Hell yeah. That's awesome. Did
Especially in
you
the
Yeah.
age
do
of content, that's really awesome. It's
Yeah,
every
definitely.
artist needs content in every form and documentation, and sometimes they can't always, make the time or whatnot.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. Did do video stuff at Warped Tour though, right? Did I see that correctly?
Yes. Yeah,
So how
so
did that
we
all work out? Did you like submit to do it or did you do the whole tour or just a couple shows?
the first year that we started doing stuff for Warped, it was just us just doing stuff at Warped. We started just, I think it was 2015, maybe 2014, I can't remember, but we started just going to our local shows and filming as many bands as we possibly could and could get the approval for. And then I think it was the next year we were like how could we get them to hire us? Like we should work Warp Tour, and we ended up actually talking with Kevin Lyman and went down to his office in Southern California. And we had one of our friends beforehand go talk to him. His name is Tim Kayam. He is he does the uh, or KM Kayam. Sorry, Timmy. It's early.
Yeah, yeah,
He
I
does
get it.
Kayam interviews, and he does a lot of drum cams. He's also a photographer, but he reached out to Warp Tour for us initially because he lived in the area, and he went down and set up the first meeting. And then we all went down there and talked with them, and we beat out Yahoo, and
Wow.
we basically were like, this is what we can do. We're not doing exactly live like we were doing like post production, but the quality is way different, and that was something that really sold them. So we went out and we did like 7 days on the tour, and then we flew home and edited like 46 videos in the span of
Holy
like
shit.
a month and a half. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was a wild time.
Wow, that's amazing. And the fact you beat out Yahoo?
Yeah, so yeah, Yahoo
What?
was originally doing the streams, and
Yeah.
I mean, we all know how those streams were, and
Yeah.
we wanted to bring something new to the table, and they were open to it. They're like, "We're open to it." Like we've been looking for
Yeah.
something else, and we just kind of came at the right time. So, yeah, definitely one of the coolest things we've done.
So
Yeah,
was
absolutely.
it a matter of I guess like what was separating you guys? Was it like camera shots or overall video quality in general?
Yeah, I think everything had something to do with it. Like
Yeah.
our audio was better, even though at that point we weren't like doing incredible audio. Like it was better than Yahoo's. Like, I mean, the main problem is that we just do it differently than Yahoo. Like Yahoo's
Mhm.
live from the board. There's not
Mm.
much that they can really do besides trying to mix it directly through. Whereas we're actually grabbing, like the raw tracks and we're taking it to a producer and doing something with it. But
That's what I was gonna ask what your
Yeah.
process was, if you're doing live and board or if you were going through raw.
yeah, so and the big thing is like back then we weren't doing that yet. We weren't doing multi-tracks. We were getting audio from the board just like Yahoo was, but we were doing a better job at mixing it and making it sound
Mm.
okay. And we had someone running with a laptop who had all the feed. So, but yeah, I mean over time we just drastically improved that with the addition of Matt Thomas from Ashtone Audio, who's a fucking wizard.
Mhm. Mhm. Hell yeah, dude. So you do the Caliber TV, you also do visual hype productions. Did
Mhm.
that kind of start around the same time? I know you said you'd mentioned that you were doing video stuff beforehand. Was that visual hype or was that just
No,
something else?
so no, that was something else. So I started off, I started doing filming like in high school, and before that, I started with graphic design. So that was, I'd been doing that pretty much since I was like 10, like doing graphic design, and then visual hype actually is something that I started within the last few years. I'd been shooting music videos before that, but it was just kind of under my name, and I didn't really have a
Mm,
name
okay.
for it. I was just shooting stuff for local bands while doing the Caliber stuff, and then I decided to take it more seriously during the pandemic because we didn't have any shows to film, and that whole entire side of what I do was just not available to me. So that's when I
Yeah.
just started doing tons of music videos. It just seemed like the best option at that time, and it's definitely helped and blossomed it into something bigger. So.
Yeah. I could definitely
Amazing.
tell. Um, yeah, so I mean, so what are the differences that you're noticing with Caliber TV versus or so now versus when it started? Because right now you guys have, I mean, you could post a video in 2 weeks and 500,000 views,
Yeah.
and so you guys have some pretty crazy reach already. What are the big differences between now versus the first couple years of doing it?
Well, I mean, yeah, our process is a whole lot different. When we first started, we were out there every night of the week filming shows and just uploading it. And we didn't really know anything about color grading or doing anything like that. Now our process is split between a multitude of people. So there's me and then Alfredo. So Alfredo does the cut work. I do the color grading, branding, and finalization. And Matt Thomas does all of the audio. So it's split between us three. Um, but really, I mean, the biggest thing is our name. The name has helped quite a lot. Also, running a publication behind it and doing news and interviews and stuff has really helped to grow Caliber. When we first started, you know, we didn't really know what we were doing. A lot of times we'd just show up and we were
Yeah.
friends with the venue owner, and he was just like, "Yeah, it's cool with me. You can film here." And we weren't going through bands, and we were just showing up and filming, and a lot of times the bands were cool with it, but we had times where we shot some things and they were ripped off the internet. The label didn't
Mm,
like it, that we didn't ask
Mm.
them, and we
yeah.
were just kids. Like
Yeah.
we were
Didn't
out
know any
there, we were
different.
young and dumb, we didn't know what we were doing you know
Yeah.
Luckily we didn't get ourselves like blacklisted or anything where they're like, we don't like you
Yeah.
guys. You don't ask us for anything.
Right.
But, now we do everything by the book. Everything is, we reach out, we coordinate things. It's a lot bigger operation now than it was initially.
How did COVID affect the flow for you guys? How did you get forced to adapt in some ways? Obviously, live events were going indoors or whatnot.
Mhm.
Where were you guys when that was going on?
Yeah, so COVID definitely affected, the live completely. We weren't
Yep.
able to do any live shows. So we decided to start doing in studio live sessions, which we did with Darko first. So
Hmm.
Josh Miller hit us up, and it's like, hey, I'm starting this new project. We'd heard a little bit of it here and there, and they flew out Tom, and they were in the studio with Matt Thomas, and like, let's do something. Let's film a live session, and it was a great idea. I mean, we'd been wanting to do stuff like that for a while, and
Yeah.
it was just the perfect opportunity. Because at first we were like, oh, we'll release old stuff. We've got like hard drives and hard drives of Warp Tour footage. We could go
Hmm.
back and release more Sum 41. We could release, we're like, this gives us an excuse to release old stuff that we never could before because
Yeah.
too much time had passed. And a
Yep.
lot of people probably don't think about it that way. Like, why don't you release it anyways? Well, because we can always catch them on a new tour and help promote the new tour and do
Yeah.
that. So we originally were like, let's release a ton of old stuff. Like we can go way back,
Hmm.
and we ended up releasing a couple, and we were like, let's move forward. So we
Hmm.
started doing the live in studio sessions, and the Darko one really just took off. I mean, I think it's at 1.5 million almost currently, and that thing
Wow,
blew up the insects video.
that's
um,
incredible.
and we've continued to do that with them every time they come out to our area and record a new album. I mean, like, uh Dragon Chaser, the video that we did, we actually recorded that like almost like a year prior while they were working on their previous album. So we just like are constantly like, if they're in there, we're going to be recording old stuff, new stuff, like whatever they're working on and whatever they just released. Like, so we've got more Darko coming.
That's
Hell yeah.
awesome.
So how does it work for the artist in terms of royalties for videos that you kind of put out on your own YouTube page? If they've got a new track, a new music video, they want to put it on Caliber TV. How
Mhm.
does that work in terms of payment or royalties? Do they get any back end?
A lot of times the artists get pretty much all of it. I mean, we've discussed getting whitelisted. We haven't done that yet. We work really closely with a lot of publicists and
Can
management,
you
and
explain whitelisted for anybody who doesn't know what that is?
it's just where they allow the copyright through to you. Like they allow you to receive royalties. And
Okay.
we do have sometimes where that happens, where artists will whitelist our video and it's not an issue. But
Mhm.
majority of the videos that are on Caliber, they the money that comes through that ad revenue is not for us. It's just YouTube. YouTube is very
Mm.
strict with their policies. A lot of times there's no way around it. Um, so we just we get what we get at this point. My baby's trying to come into the room. I keep hearing the door.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so we on the back end of things, like we don't have a lot. Like we may have 500 plus videos up, but we don't make a lot off of that. I mean, really, we're journalists. We we do it for the
Mhm.
passion of doing it, and it's kind of
Absolutely.
how it always has been. But we started selling merch this year, and we're like, yeah, we should try to sell merch and make more money. But as far as the ad revenue goes, like we've had a couple videos here and there where they're like, yeah, you can have all the ad money,
Mhm.
or we'll split it 50-50. But majority of the time, YouTube flags it as ineligible,
Mm.
and you
Oh.
can dispute it. And we try to dispute it and say like, hey, we're working directly with the label. We have permission to do this. This is something that's fully coordinated. It's not, it's original audio. It's something that we are mastering and working on. YouTube robots just say, nah, you know,
Wow.
because it sends to somebody at the
Yeah.
label, but a lot of times it's not the people who've talked and coordinated with us, and it is what it is. YouTube is the way it is.
Right.
doesn't
Yeah.
protect live music content creators. So
Sure. So why use YouTube in and I'm sorry if Amari, you were gonna ask a question, I interrupted
Oh,
you.
no, you're good, go
Why
ahead.
use YouTube and not other video platforms like Vimeo or anything else? Is it just because YouTube is where you got started and it'd be hard to transition, or is there like an ad difference?
no, I think overall it's just YouTube's the big platform. YouTube's where everybody's surfing and looking for things, and you know, we've contemplated other ways of doing it, but YouTube is really where we want it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, it would be cool if YouTube would give us a little bit more. Like they now have paid memberships on YouTube where creators can have a membership section that people can pay like $1 or $2 a
Sure.
month and get extra content.
Hmm.
But we're not
That's what I was just gonna
eligible.
ask if
Yeah,
you could
but
do a paywall.
yeah, I wish we're not eligible. YouTube
Wow.
tells us because we have content that's copyrighted that we are not allowed to because majority of our videos. So they don't even give us the option for membership. Because when I first found
Hmm.
out about it, I was like, oh, this would be so cool. We could do
Yeah.
all these things that people normally can't see, and we have so much footage. Like
Yeah.
no, but a Patreon is probably where we'll go with that.
Right.
So we just have to figure out the legalities of selling things that are other people's intellectual property, kind of. I mean, Hate
Sure.
56 is doing it. Shout out to him.
Yeah.
He's an awesome guy. But yeah, he's running a Patreon and he's doing that, and he's got Kill Switch Engage on there. So
Hmm.
if
Wow.
he can do it, I mean, why
Yeah.
can't we?
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Do you guys do any would you say you're like pretty traditional with your content? Have you guys dabbled in any like CGI or visual like animation or any like Unreal Engine, anything like that?
Yeah, so I do a lot of stuff like that normally, with music videos and stuff. As far
Mhm.
as like the live videos, we try to keep those pretty straightforward.
Right.
More of just camera tricks and
Yep.
introducing things through the traditional way of the camera.
Yep.
Um, yeah, I mean, I don't think we'll ever bring like transitions or crazy looking shit to Caliber. I
Yeah.
think as far as what we do, like we we're ultimately just we're documenting live music. That's
Yeah.
what we really like, and we want it to be kind of true to the live format. While we may bring in some crazy new additions to remind people, that we're the top.
That's dope.
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
we aren't going to really resort to doing a lot of that. I mean, I see a
Mhm.
lot of live videos now where they're pulling in slow mo, and we're like, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, we shoot everything where it's capable of being slow motion, but we don't use it that way.
Mhm.
And we've contemplated doing it. We're like, we really want it to feel live. I mean, that's what I grew up on, watching Slipknot Big Day Out videos and
Oh yeah.
watching System of a
Yeah.
Down. All the Big Day Out videos were just like on repeat for me. So,
Hell yeah.
um,
Live in Texas, Lincoln Park.
yeah, that's a great one too. Yeah,
Insane.
there's a lot of really old, great videos, and I love the vibe of them and the fast
Yeah.
cuts, and that's really what we try to do is we bring the music video like aspect of music to live performances, and I don't think we'll ever stray from that.
Hell yeah. So if somebody wanted to get started with doing live performances, what are some of the things that they should be doing? Like kind of products should be getting. Things that they should be avoiding. I mean, I know that's kind of a loaded question.
Hmm.
But
Um, I mean, if you're getting started in live, I would say that it's ultimately you gotta stay persistent. I mean, it's not gonna grow overnight. You've got to make connections. A lot of times, like, I mean, the way we did it was we just showed up to little teeny tiny venues and just started filming, local bands and different things. And when we didn't have bigger bands to shoot, we were shooting local bands, and take what you can get. I mean, if you're going to shoot live, you just got to start building something. And then eventually, you'll be able to write to other publicists and say, hey, like, this is what I do. Here's a couple of my videos, and you may get rejected. You may not. And don't take it personal if you do. I mean, a lot of times it's just the nature of the business. They only have so many guest passes that they can give out. And if Caliber's there, we've taken all of them, and I'm sorry. So, but, you know, it, it it doesn't have to be like something that is is stressful. Like if you're going to go out and do it, like know that you are going to get rejected. That's just
Oh yeah.
the nature of the business, but don't give up. Just continue cuz that's what we did. I mean, we had plenty of times where we've been rejected by artists. I mean, still to this day we get rejected. And
Mhm.
sometimes it's as simple as, oh, they don't want to do it this tour, they want to do it next tour because they have an album coming out or whatever. And sometimes it's just that they just don't want to do it. And there are reasons behind it, I'm sure. I mean, I think anyone would take content if they could. Free content is great.
Right.
But,
Mhm.
bands have plans, management has plans. Sometimes they have a live show that they're planning 6 months, a year from now that's massive, and they're bringing out, massive crews to do it. And, I would love to be that crew, but if we're not the crew, that's okay.
Right.
Awesome.
Have you guys done any sort of like band documentaries? Like Every Time I Die had that, like those like few DVDs they did and stuff like that. Anything like that?
Oh man, I would love to. We've talked about it in the past. We have a lot of footage from Warped. Um, you know, we I would love to do that. We do have some footage that we sold to a documentary.
Hmm.
I don't think I can discuss what it is, but
For
there
sure.
is a documentary that we do have some footage that we've contributed to. But as far as us doing documentary work, that's something that I really, really passionately want to do. And I have talked with a couple documentary, like some people who've created some really well-known documentaries, and I've discussed, some ideas with them, but nothing has really come, full circle yet.
Yeah.
But that's something that I'm definitely interested in. And we archive a lot of our footage. I mean, I have footage from first time we filmed Warp Tour still. So, it's something that I'm gonna personally hold on to in case we do want to do something like that. So,
Yeah, I mean, as like a music lover and an avid listener, that's something that I always like. I always want to see the live performances, and I always wonder like, what are these guys like? And um,
yeah,
you
Behind the
really get to
scenes.
know a band by seeing all that stuff and having someone follow them with the camera.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
definitely.
I was pumped when the Joe Bros documentary came out. That was cool. So kind of shifting over to the visual hype productions part of it, the music video side.
Mhm.
Um, can you explain how a process should go for a professional music video? I feel like there's a lot of bands who may not know if they're trying to get into getting a music video shot. They don't know what they're looking for or looking at.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first thing is just identifying a director that you like. But as far as like shooting music videos go, I mean, a lot of times, like when you're talking to a music video director, you got to expect that there are going to be extra costs. Um, I try to do things underneath like a certain window, like this is how much it's going to cost for me to do the editing and the shooting, but then everything else falls on the band to basically fund. So even though I'm helping and I am assisting with that, but a lot of music video directors, it's like, here's our budget, and it doesn't, they may do the breakdown, but they might be just like, okay, I need 8 grand for a video, and they're going to use that money for whatever they see is fit to purchase and buy and rent and bring
right.
out certain things versus with me I have a ton of lighting. I have a ton of, different gear that I already own. So I own a shit ton of stuff that I already bring. But
Mm.
then I'll bring ideas to the table and be like, we should rent out this place. We should do, this, whatever. Um, and that's more of like me helping to build the narrative or helping to, push the video in the right direction. But a lot of directors, it's more of just like, this is the budget that we would probably need. Whatever's left over will go into, you know, paying actors, doing certain things, whatever it is. But I think for a lot of bands, you know, when you do music videos, there's things that you have to take in accountability. A lot of bands don't take into accountability the clothing they're wearing. A lot of bands are just showing up without coordinating. That's something I try to coordinate with all the artists that I work with, is wear something that's going to work well together. If you're doing a video and everything is black, don't wear black clothing. Like there's certain things that just make sense camera wise that people don't think of. Like if you're shooting it all in black, like a void or whatever, and you've just got a light source that's keeping you illuminated, you probably shouldn't wear black. You're going to get lost. The compression of YouTube is going to make it not look as good. Wear something that's going to stand out a little bit more. um, Another thing is, people don't think about like certain textures. Wearing textures is great. It looks great on the camera. Ripped jeans, any kind of texture that adds. A lot of times you'll see bands where they're wearing multiple layers. The multiple layers is just something that just gives extra visual. Like when
Mhm.
you see like Northlane playing, like they're not just playing in like a shirt and jeans. Like a lot of times they've got, an extra coat on, or they've got two layers, and those layers are moving. Those are things that are visual. Um,
Wow.
so a lot of
Okay.
people don't take into accountability, that those are things that matter, and they don't matter for every band, but you should have some kind of look, and you should have, something that you're trying to portray. um, I mean, Alpha Wolf's another example of that. They have definitely,
Mhm.
figured out what their look is. I mean, Sabian always wears his mask. There's bands that have done that forever, like Asking when they first started, Asking Alexandria. They all had that almost hair metal style hair. Like
Mhm.
they all brought something that was a look, and they blew up. you know it was the music, but it was the
The
attitude and the
brand.
rock style, and just how they looked. And a
Mhm.
lot of people think, you just show up and everything's going to look fucking sick. And yeah, it might, but you
Yeah.
also got to put something into it as well.
Do you think a little bit of it is developing a brand for the
Yes,
band itself before you
100%.
do the shoot? Okay.
100%. Bands are a business, and if you don't realize that already, then you're losing.
Yeah.
It's a business. The reason that bands succeed is because they treat it like a business.
Yep.
You see bands that have revolving members. It's a business. Look at Amir. I mean, Frankie is the leader behind Amir. I mean, but the people who are around him are hired to do their job. That's
Mhm.
that's just the way that Amir is now. And there's other bands that they cycle in at people,
I
and
Set My Friends on Fire is a big one that does that. I think they got
mhm.
one original member from when they first started. Everybody else has just been cycled.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing that people don't realize with when you're in a band is it's a business. You have to plan your moves, you have to plan everything, and a lot of people aren't planning. And that's why people will be a local band for 10 years before they blow up. um,
Mhm.
but it depends on what you're creating. It depends on a lot of different factors. It's not just your brand. But that is a big, massive portion of it, for sure.
Like, look, man, you can't wear shorts. I'm sorry. Unless you're playing drums, you can't wear shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Like, hey man, you can't wear the Borat Speedo,
The
Yeah.
unless you're an electric callboy, then probably it'll work.
if that's
If you've
part of the
got white
show,
ass legs, wear some pants.
that's part of the show. But yeah, I mean, it's ultimately you're putting on a performance, you have a set, you have, your clothing is part of your set design, like, it's all yeah, some people just don't know that.
Break the Gate podcast is brought to you by Puff Tuff. Puff Tuff is a Wisconsin based cannabis friendly clothing brand, and I can't tell you how unbelievably cool the Puff Tuff merch designs are. They are seriously so dope. No pun intended. You can get high quality, unbleached, organic hemp rolling papers, which is the same recipe as raw, which is this stuff right here. And I'll tell you, Puff Tuff Christmas themed merch is absolutely insane. And look at this jacket. Sweater, same difference. Hit them up on Facebook or Instagram and get 15% off of any of their items by using the code BTG.
Yeah. And some bands
So
get away with it. Some bands can just wear other band
that's
shirts.
true.
Yeah.
Some bands are just that good where the music kind of trumps everything else,
Yes.
So we talked about cost earlier in terms of music videos. Um, to kind of structure this question, and I know there's not really a set budget, but what are some of the different levels of budget a band might expect to have in terms of trying to get a music video set up for them? Coming from like lower budget to like $100,000 music videos. Um, what are the correlations with quality and how much money that they should be putting out for this?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on a lot of different factors. Um, if who you're shooting with already owns a red camera, sick. That's something that they physically own. You don't have to rent it out, right? But whereas with me, I'm shooting with Blackmagic cinema cameras. They're great. I love them. They produce amazing images. But if we want to shoot with a red camera, that's something that needs to be factored in for rental. You know, so I would say that the biggest thing that varies between prices is your ideas and what you want to accomplish. If you're trying to just do a band performance video, like that can be done on a very cheaper, product. It depends if you're going to have actors, but if you're just doing like a band performance, that's pretty much just paying for location. It's paying for my time for, which is I have a pretty set fee for how much I charge to shoot for a whole day and, produce it all. And but that can change. If it needs to be a multi-day shoot, then there's a day fee as well,
Mhm.
which isn't horrible, but it is something that has to be thought about. So if you're
So
doing a
you
band
say like
performance,
2 grand would be a good number to kind of save up for like a quality music video 1 day shoot. That
yeah.
includes, video production, post edit, all that stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, it ultimately depends on location. You don't always have to get a location. There are times where, we scout and find cool places that we don't have to pay for. But if you want
Mhm.
a certain look, say you want to shoot it in a studio that has tons of lighting all over the walls, or you want to do fire machines, or want to do certain things, those add up. Those are things that are going to add on to it. But yeah, I mean, generally I charge about 2,000 for my work, just me. That's
Mhm.
shooting, planning, and editing, and all the revisions. Um, that includes me bringing all my lighting and everything that I have. I also have fire machines, so that's something that I don't charge for. Um,
Mhm.
but um, things change depending on if you want to bring in actors. If you want to bring in, a dancer or something, then I have to get someone else involved. I have to get a choreographer. That person needs to be paid. If you're doing actors, how many? What is the story they're telling? Do we need another location? Is everything going to be shot at the same spot that the band's at?
Mhm.
Maybe, maybe
Mhm.
not. Are we shooting in an old house? What are we looking for the vibe? Then it's finding those spots. So, you know, I've had bands where we've shot in like an old Victorian mansion, and that was sick. It was really cool. Didn't cost us a lot. I think we paid like $70 an hour. Um, but generally you're looking at, depending on your director. you're looking at almost a full day of shooting. The least amount of time I've done, which is just working absolutely hectic as fuck and bringing out extra people, was 4 hours, and
Hmm.
that's on the low end of just doing just band performance, and that's really pushing it. 5 hours is
Yeah.
probably more doable, get more angles, but you know it depends on how much time you have as well and to what the product you're going to get, because
Right.
if you're only willing to dish out a certain amount of time, that falls on me to be extremely laser focused, and that's something that I specialize in. It's something that I've done forever with live videos. Everything is
Hmm.
fast paced, but if I'm given extra time, it allows me to get in tons of different angles, to be really creative, to do certain things. So, like I have a video next weekend that I'm shooting, and we're planning on going all out. Like we're doing a full day. We're like actually busy building physical walls. Like
Wow.
we're building a set. Um, and even though it's going to be like kind of a void type of feel where they're playing in the black, it's going to be very fast paced. There's going to be tons of angles, and I'm aiming at just doing as many as possible. Like when you think of like Slipknot Before I Forget, and how
Mm.
many angles they have. They've got one on the
Yeah.
foot, they've got one on just the mic, things like
Hmm.
that. That's what I'm looking to do with that one, is just really fast paced. Um, but you need the time to do that. So
Yeah, and artists have to really comprehend. I feel like a lot of times they have these visions, but they have this budget, and it's
yeah,
like you want so much, but you got to understand that everyone's time and resources. It's definitely an investment that people know they got to make, and if you want a good
definitely.
video, like put that investment forward.
Yeah, and like I mean, and same thing with like the Unreal Engine stuff. A lot of people
Yeah.
will hit you up and be like, "Hey, like I want to do all these crazy things with green screens, but my budget is $600." You're
Hmm.
like, "Well, that doesn't even get me out of the house. I'm sorry." But, you know,
Yeah,
but people, that's something that I think bands don't look at too, is they're willing to just, like, a lot of bands on the lower level are just like, I just need content. Doesn't matter. Like
Mm.
I'm gonna shoot a $600 video with my homie.
yeah,
And
Mm.
then they wonder why, several years down the line, nothing's popping too hard. But then you look at
Hmm.
bands that come out right out the gate that are swinging hard, and they're doing crazy numbers.
yeah.
And it all depends on a bunch of different factors, but I think getting your image right, is important. And a lot of bands, instead of being like, "Oh, we'll wait 2 months, and we'll come up with the funds, and we'll penny pinch and do what we need to do that." Um, and sometimes I cut bands a break, and there's certain things where I'm like, "Yeah, I believe in the music a lot, and I'd like to do it, and I'll do it a little cheaper."
Yeah.
But
Hmm.
a lot of bands won't even do like 1,500. And so you gotta
Wow.
like, when you're in a band, like I said, it's a business, and sometimes you need to focus on your plan and stick to it and not
Hmm.
compromise. You
Right.
compromise, and it's gonna show. So
Any any wild stories on set?
Mhm.
Any like crazy days that you can think of, like, wow, that was a disaster, or, you know, I can't believe this happened or this went wrong.
yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can think of anything too crazy.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I've just like shot a music video in Texas with Sorrow Eater, which is Hunter from Hunt the Dinosaurs' other project, with some of the guys from Bro Job. And
Mm.
we had this idea of just creating like black muck that we were just gonna pour on them, and there ended up being a blizzard in Texas, and it was below zero, and it was freezing, and my flight got canceled to go out there, so we pushed it back a week, and I
Yeah.
flew out there, and it was still cold as shit, and we lit a massive bonfire for the video, I mean, 20-foot tall bonfire,
Holy
and
shit.
it was a wild video. But we got to that point where it was like it was 5 a.m. We'd been filming all night, through the night,
Yeah.
um, out in the cold. And towards the very end of it, we were like, okay, we got to pour on the goo. And they're just like, fuck it, let's do it. Like, it's cold as shit. And they're like, we mixed it all, and it was all with like really hot water. Like, we started out with really hot water, and we were able to mix it and get it kind of looking really gross and nasty.
Mhm.
And then by the time we get out there, it's like super cold, and just
Yeah.
Hunter's just like, oh fuck. Okay, here we go. He just grabs the bucket and just pours it on himself, and he's just drenched in it. Just looks disgusting. And they're just like freezing. We're like, let's go to the fire, and we're just warming up at the fire.
Holy shit.
And
Holy shit.
we knocked that shit out. But like, yeah, I don't know as far as like things going wrong necessarily I can think of. I think every video has its issues here and there.
Oh
That,
yeah. Mhm.
you when you're on set, things change. There sometimes certain things don't work. A lot of times, all your testing, it'll be different in the room, and you got to accommodate. A lot of it's just accommodations.
Right.
Um, but I don't think I've ever had anything go terribly wrong. You
Yeah.
know, um, I definitely haven't had anything that's been like, oh shit, that was really bad.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
most of the time it's like, damn, this thing didn't work, but maybe we could
yeah.
use it this way. And we're
Mhm.
like,
Right,
okay,
right.
cool, that works great. But
So
yeah.
that's cool. So in terms of planning like a DIY shoot, if like a band doesn't necessarily have the capital to be able to invest into a quality like director or something like that, but they still want to be able to, get content out, because bands will still are still gonna want to do that. I mean, they're gonna listen to this and be like, fuck that, I'm gonna still put stuff out.
Hmm.
How would they do it in a DIY way? Or what are the must haves and must do's in order to at least put something that's quality?
I think, ultimately, if you're doing it yourself, like if you're not hiring someone, um, I think you should do a lot of studying of other videos, see the way that things are composed. If you're doing DIY with a director, I mean, really, your creativity is the limit. I have another band that's reaching out to me to do a DIY styled video, and they're like, we don't want to rent anything, we don't want to do these things, but we have our house, we have these things, we have locations, um, and that just takes getting extra creative. Lighting, using things to your advantage, staging certain things. Um, I mean, the if you're doing it DIY, a lot of the mistakes that I see from bands is just having too little angles, you know, having
Mhm.
one angle for the vocalist that's just kind of like almost full body, doing one shot of the guitar, one shot of the drums, whatever. I think that variety is something that really speaks to cinema, a lot of different lenses. And people might not initially have that and have that at their
Mhm.
disposable or their disposal. But if you have friends who are willing to help you, say you got a homie that's just got a camera, like sit down with them. Like if they're willing to do it and they want to get a name or they want to start doing something, watch and learn. Like go to YouTube, watch all your favorite bands, look at what they're doing. And
Mhm.
you might not be able to create it exactly on that level, but you may be able to bring certain things into your production that you liked. Oh, they had a
Yep.
bunch of strobing lights. Oh, they were using fog, and they set this really like musky looking shot, like you're chilling in the fog. They set a, oh, I noticed that they're using, backdrop cloths or whatever
Mhm.
they're doing.
Mhm.
Like there's things that you can do on a smaller budget that can still look really, really good and that you could
Yep.
do for practically free. I
Yep.
mean, look through your city for cool stuff. A lot of people, I mean, look at the early metalcore videos. Just going to an abandoned place and sneaking in, filming in there.
Mhm.
And I've done
Mhm.
that. And it's cool. You can get some cool shit. Just have some battery powered lighting, bring something that you can play the sound off of. Don't
Mhm.
make the mistake of just bringing your phone. you're going to have a really hard time. Um, but, ultimately, it's just whatever you're able to bring to the table creative wise. So you can
What
do
are
things
some of
on no
the
budget.
what are some of the good products and software that be on a good on like a starter one, that a band could get to kind of get this process started?
Oh, like to edit?
Yeah, so software that they use to edit, or
Hmm.
cameras that they could use. Is a GoPro a good option? Or what are some of the ones that they could get that starter that doesn't burn a hole in the pocket?
Beginner pack.
Beginner pack, yeah.
I mean, a lot of the low end Sonys are really, really good. Um, you could get like an A6500 and A6300 probably used for, like 500, $800 off Facebook. Um, that's a camera that can kind of grow with you. It's a little bit older, does shoot 4K. It's, the Sony sensors are great. I would highly recommend, getting a cheap Sony. I mean, the high ends are great. There are other cameras too that are definitely worth it. There's some on the Canon side. I can't think of one specifically that would be cheap and good, but um, yeah, I mean, I personally wouldn't do a GoPro. I don't think that GoPros are the look for videos. I think if you're going to go for something and you have a cheap budget, you should get a zoom lens, get something that has some variety so you can get some close shots, you can get some far away shots. Um, and that's going to be something that can grow with you. If you can remove the lens from it, little ways down the line, you can get a new lens for it, and just
Hmm.
continue building. You would hate to be stuck in an ecosystem that's all you got. You buy a GoPro,
Hmm.
that's what you get.
Yeah.
That's the
Yep.
look forever. But if you buy something that has a sensor that you can remove the camera lens, then you're gonna be able to grow with, your skills and over time.
Cool. So, in
Oh, and
terms of like
software. I didn't mention
software, that's
software.
right. Yeah, software. Yep.
Yeah. DaVinci Resolve's great.
Mm,
And it's
that's what I
free.
used actually.
You can download DaVinci Resolve for free from
Hmm.
Blackmagic. They do have a paid version, but that's a great way to start. Really, any editing software you can start with. I mean, right out the gate, if you don't really know editing software, you've got to learn it either way. And every software is different, but they all have pretty much basic fundamentals. If you've got a Mac, use Final Cut Pro, whatever. If you say you don't want to pay for Adobe, or you think DaVinci is just insane and it's way too hard to learn, you could either start learning it by watching other people do it, or you could download something a little simpler. There's a bunch of other video editing programs that are free. They may not be the best, but you can get the gist of it. Like
Hmm.
Power Director. It comes on some PCs pre-installed. You can download it for free. Do I think it's great software? No, I think it's garbage. But can you produce things in it? Yes. Can you create something and, fully produce and put it out? It's going to look good. You're not going to have a lot of tools at your disposal. You can cut, you can sync things to music. That's important. You may
Yeah.
not be able to do a bunch of visual effects. You may not be able to do certain things. But if you can get down the basics, you can move up to something. If you find that you really like doing it, it'll be worth the investment to go into something else. Like Adobe's expensive. You got to pay per month. And
Hmm.
I hate it and I pay them.
Hmm.
But I haven't had the time to fully learn DaVinci Resolve. I have so many projects that I'm working on that
Yeah.
I fiddled with it, but I haven't taken the time to produce a full video in it. And so I'll continue to pay Adobe.
I'll definitely be picking your brain on the DaVinci Resolve though, because so part of this podcast was a video aspect of it too,
Hmm.
but I was having issues with figuring out DaVinci Resolve, and I didn't want to put out content that wasn't good. I didn't want to. I have a certain standard of how I wanted it to look, so
Hmm.
I end up just stop putting it out. And for anybody who's listening who's wondering why there's no YouTube videos, that's why. So I have all this data in the back end that I've just been kind of working through. But I'm glad that you use it because
Hmm.
I'll be picking your brain if I have any issues. And if I
Definitely.
learn something cool, I'll let you know as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So this is kind of left field, but do you guys do any sort of one-off projects for, let's say, like any commercial work or any kind of clients who need like, oh, a commercial for their business or whatnot, anything like that
Hmm.
that you've dabbled in?
Yeah, I've done a lot of that. When it comes to film work, I pretty much do everything. I
Yeah.
also run a wedding videography company with my wife.
Mhm.
She does the photos, I do the video. So we run that. I also have worked on stuff for businesses. I've worked on stuff for places here locally. I've had bands where like someone's, runs a company or somebody manages something and they bring me out to create an ad or whatever. Um, that's something I also like. Um, if it involves a camera, I'll do it.
Right.
Honestly, I love filming. At the end of the day, that's just part of my soul. So it doesn't matter if
Oh,
it's a movie, documentary, whatever. I want to do it all. So, um,
cool.
I love how
yeah,
that seems to be a trend amongst like people producing music videos is, they also do weddings because I mean a
Got to
wedding is
diversify your
yeah,
portfolio.
you can
yeah,
people, and especially when you have a partnership with your significant other. I have a friend who does the same thing. And some people they're like they do both and then they end up saying, well, like I can just knock out weddings and make so much money compared to like trying to like work with
yeah.
musicians is one battle, right? To produce
Hmm.
things you want to produce and with the right budgets and whatnot. But weddings seem to be like the bread and butter for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, nothing stops love. People are always
Yeah.
going to get
Right.
married. I mean, even during the pandemic, we shot so many weddings during the pandemic, like
Wow.
little where people had to downsize them and have like
Yeah.
5 people at their wedding, but they were like, "But we want to have it filmed still."
Yeah.
So they
I
may
want
cut
to
out all the
see,
other vendors, but we're always
Right.
going to be there.
in the age of reality TV, who's doing divorce content, right? Who's
Yeah.
who what
Yeah.
you have one part of the story, but what about the other juicy story?
Right, right.
Yeah,
That's
right.
an interesting look.
That could be a
So we
hit.
got a couple more questions here, and then we'll pretty much wrap it up. Last few questions I have. We were talking about a little bit, a lot of it, getting a videographer, a director. What are some of the things that a band should be looking for when they're picking a director for their shoot?
um, I think ultimately, like you have to have a style that you're looking for. Like I do a lot of band performances. I want to do more. I've done story mode stuff as well, but a lot of people come to me for band performances because it's something that I'm really really good at. Um, but if you're looking for a certain aspect, look for a director who's capable of doing that and somebody who's you know got a look that you like. I mean, there are a lot of directors in the scene. Um, my friend Brandon Brumley, he's from Texas. He does some absolutely killer videos. He shoots a lot of anamorphic. His stuff is
Mm,
really stylized. Um, there's like Eric DiCarlo. Eric DiCarlo works with like Chelsea Grin and a lot of other big bands, and his work is just phenomenal as well. He's able to mix a lot of different aspects that make things really cinematic. um, and there's plenty of other directors as well. Like oh, let's see who else is there. There's uh, man, let me pull open my Facebook.
mm.
I'm blanking hard. It's an early
Yeah,
morning.
no worries, man. Yeah,
Um, So there's Tom Flynn. He works with like Lamb of God. He does
Okay.
a lot of really well produced things with actors and different stuff. So he's someone to go to when you're looking for something like that. But a lot of these people are very well versed in everything. You come to them, they can do anything. So ultimately, it depends on what your budget is. Um, a lot of different directors are way different price points. It depends who you're
Right.
working with, what their clientele is, who they've worked with, and a lot of them will also, they'll sometimes do things on the cheap. It depends,
Yep.
you know. But I think ultimately you got to look for bands that are in a style that you're after, you know, or I
Yep.
mean directors that are in a style that fits your band. So
Okay. Cool.
um, yeah.
So we talked about it a little bit before with like the textures and not wearing black on black, but can you tell me more or some more experiences that you've had with bands that you would rather them not do, or
Um, I mean,
even as simple as like hitting you up for something for work? Are there things that they should avoid saying? Maybe not be rude,
A lot of
that kind of
mistakes you
thing.
see.
Yeah.
yeah, there's definitely that aspect too. Not
Sure.
ne- I think the way you approach people, you have to realize that it's their craft as well, and they wanna have a lot of input. And while people are always open to additions and different things, I think there are some people that um, really are very stingy and not open to ideas, and that doesn't help open the doors for anybody.
Yep.
If someone's bringing you ideas over and over and over again, and there's really no headway, and you're not giving any direction, that might be
Mm,
a partnership that's not going to work out. you know uh, I've had a couple artists that I've worked with that I won't work with anymore because of the way that they treated me. You know, there are people who will do things where they will continue to try to lowball you and lowball you and lowball you, and you'd be like, "Oh, well, we're homies. I'll do it for cheap for you,
mm,
but here's the conditions. This is how many revisions you're going to get. You're going to have to you know, look over everything before you give me revisions. Don't just send me 5 things, and then come back to me with 5 more things, and then come back with 5 more things, and then roll it back to where it originally was.
mhm.
If you're getting the homie hookup, talk these things out with somebody.
Yep.
Right.
There are going to be things that are not technically cool. I've had people that I've done a video for like $600, $700 just because they're homies. But then it turns out to be a project that's just ridiculous. And they want to reshoot things and they want to do all these things. And I'm like, well, dude, like, that's what I charge the full price for. The full
Mhm.
price is for that. It's for revisions, it's for all the extra time, it's for buying plugins, it's for buying things that I want to do. But then you're like, "Oh, well, I want this effect." You're like, "Okay, cool, but I have to buy something that's $200 for it." I'm like,
Mhm.
"Well, I
So I
gave
guess
you
it's
money." I'm like,
I guess it's safe to say if you have a homie, pay full price.
"Yeah, you know?
Don't, and I appreciate that you do it. Some people may not do it. I appreciate that you do it for your homies because you want to support them just as much as they're supporting you. But
Yeah.
if you're on the other end of it, you have to realize your homie doesn't pay his bills with free,
Nope.
Yeah.
you know?
Yes."
So support his craft because he's worked his ass off for years to do it just as much
Mhm.
as you have. And then you don't have to worry about all that extra bullshit, of like, oh, I
Yep.
only got so many re-edits, this, and that. Like, just
Right.
pay full price.
Yeah, I mean, I've talked with other directors where their frustrations have been similar. I had somebody who shot a whole video for a band and sent them like 5 different versions after going back and forth with them, and it turned into the band wanting to Skype him while he edited the whole video,
Oh
which
my
was
god.
already amazing, and he'd already
Yeah.
gone through it. But that the band was a prima donna and they really wanted to just direct it themselves. And he ended up just being like, well, fine. you can fucking have everything. You can
Yeah, I
have
was
all
just
the
gonna say
files.
I
I
would
will
have done
send it
that.
to you and you can edit it yourself. And they
Right.
did. And it didn't, he wasn't happy with the end product. He didn't want his name
Yeah.
on it, but
Right.
sometimes things happen that way if you're not willing to work with someone. And I think that for the most part, every director is going to try to do everything that you want. That's why we're
Yeah.
here. That's what we do. We are here to put your vision to life. But a lot of times there are things that are in our expertise that we know is going to work and things that we know is not going to work. And I think a lot of times most bands are pretty well open to that. I think every band wants changes. There's not a single
Yeah.
time where I produce something where they're like, right out the gate, that's fucking it. Maybe,
Yeah.
there may be times where
Yeah.
they're just like, this is it. This is so sick. But then
Yeah.
you watch it more and you're like, can we change this? Is there something we could do here to liven this area of the song? Can
Right.
we do faster cuts here? Whatever. And I'll be like, hell yeah, let's do it. Let's do that. And I'll come back with a revision. We'll make changes. But I think when you have so many people involved in one process, you've got the whole band and then you've also got the director, and if they have another editor or whatever, everyone's bringing something to the table creative wise. And I think people sometimes overlook that. Not often. There's only a small percentage of people who just nickel and dime everything, or like, that's
Yeah.
got to be like, oh, I didn't like my face for one frame, can
I'm
we
sorry, your
change that
face looks
whole
like that.
shot?
Yeah.
You're like, dude, that shot was sick as fuck, dude. Like the
Yeah.
way the camera moved, the fire, whatever. Do you have another angle of that? I don't, but I have this. And you
Right.
compromise. But some
Sure.
people aren't willing to compromise.
Yeah.
So ultimately,
Let
you
the
just gotta
barber
work
cut
with
hair.
people.
Yeah.
Right. Let the barber cut hair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Let
exactly.
the barber
Exactly.
cut
Yeah.
hair.
So
You hire someone for a specific product, and
yeah.
you should collaborate with them, but you shouldn't push it to the point where you're just asking for way too much.
Yeah.
There
So
you
now
have
that I
it.
got you worked up, I think that's it for me. Mario, do you got any last words? Last
No, Tyler,
questions?
thank you for hanging out with us today and
Yeah, of
taking time out of
course.
your day. Where can everyone find you and Caliber TV and whatnot?
So I'm Visual Hype on most platforms. Instagram, I'm just at Visual Hype. Twitter, Visual Hype with an underscore at the end.
Cool.
Caliber TV is just at Caliber TV. Pretty much everywhere you can find us.
Hell yeah.
Um, our main platform is YouTube, so go subscribe there.
Hell
Cool.
yeah.
Sounds good.
All right, Tyler, thanks for coming on.
Of
Thank you,
course,
brother. Take care. Be well.
you too.